So today, we're going to talk about the story of HiSilicon, which was, for a moment, China's greatest semiconductor champion. It's an incredible story, really. It's about a meteoric rise to the top of the world, a super dramatic fall from grace, and, well, a mysterious kind of rebirth. Honestly, it's a tech tragedy that has completely reshaped our world. Okay, so let's just jump right in with a mystery. Back in 2023, this new smartphone, the Huawei Mate 60 Pro, just appears. And inside is a chip called the Kirin 9000S. Now here's the problem. According to all the rules of geopolitics and global trade, this chip should not exist. I mean, it's impossible. The company that designed it, HiSilicon, had been totally cut off from all the advanced tech needed to make it, like 3 years earlier. So how did this ghost chip suddenly materialize out of thin air? To understand the ghost, we have to rewind the clock. We've got to tell the story of the prince. Because before HiSilicon was sending shockwaves through Washington, D.C., it was just this quiet, kind of nerdy in-house chip design unit for its parent company, Huawei. And let me tell you, their first steps were clumsy. The K3V2 chip back in 2012, it was plagued with performance issues. But you know what? These early stumbles weren't failures. They were essential. They were the grueling homework they had to do. So when Beijing announced its Made in China 2025 plan, making chips a huge national priority, HiSilicon had already done the work. That experience set the stage for their breakout hit, the Kirin 950, and then the really innovative Kirin 9070, which actually introduced the world to the first dedicated mobile AI processor, an NPU, which made things like image recognition on your phone way faster. The Kirin 950, though, that was the moment everything changed. By partnering with the undisputed best manufacturer in the world, TSMC, they just leapfrogged the competition. Its CPU performance actually beat Samsung's flagship chip. That was a huge win. But it also showed this nagging weakness they had. Its graphics performance was still way behind their biggest rival, Qualcomm. And this, right here, perfectly illustrates HiSilicon's brilliant strategy. Look, they didn't try to reinvent the wheel. They focused on being smart and efficient with their capital. Their whole plan was license the absolute best CPU designs from ARM, then pour every resource they had into getting a spot at TSMC's cutting-edge factories to build them. Their genius wasn't in trying to replace the global supply chain, it was in mastering it. And that very strategy is what led HiSilicon to the absolute pinnacle of the industry. And it was all powered by one of the most important partnerships in modern tech, its incredible relationship with TSMC. By 2019, the sheer scale of this partnership was just staggering. Get this, orders from HiSilicon alone accounted for a full 14% of TSMC's total sales revenue. For the most important manufacturer on the planet, that is a massive, massive number. And this chart just shows you how critical they were. HiSilicon was TSMC's second biggest customer, right behind Apple. I mean, think about that. These two smartphone giants, Apple and Huawei, made up almost 40% of all the business for the one company that builds the chips that power our entire digital world. This is what made HiSilicon what's known in the industry as an anchor tenant. See, building a new chip factory costs tens of billions of dollars. It's a huge risk. So to justify it, you need customers who can guarantee enormous orders, year after year. For TSMC, Apple was one of those anchors, and HiSilicon became the other. So the crucial point here is that this relationship was deeply symbiotic. It went both ways. HiSilicon's massive orders gave TSMC the financial confidence to just invest aggressively in the next big thing, which kept them way ahead of rivals like Samsung and Intel. And in return, HiSilicon got first dibs on the best manufacturing on Earth. It was this perfect loop that just shot both of them to the top. And this partnership produced HiSilicon's masterpiece, the Kirin 990 5G. This thing was a true engineering triumph. It was the world's first flagship chip to have a fully integrated 5G modem. It was also built on TSMC's most advanced process, using that cutting-edge EUV, or extreme ultraviolet, technology. At the same time, its rival from Qualcomm needed a whole separate chip for 5G. HiSilicon's design was way more efficient, used less power, and saved precious space inside the phone. This technological edge had a very clear result. In the second quarter of 2020, powered by these world-class Kirin chips, Huawei blew past Samsung to become the #1 smartphone vendor on the entire planet. This was it, the absolute peak. The prince was finally sitting on the global throne. But right at that moment, At the absolute height of its power, the ground started to shake. Geopolitics stormed onto the field, and the rules of the game were about to be completely rewritten, basically overnight. So, the first blow landed in May 2019. The US put Huawei on something called the Entity List. This banned American companies from selling their tech to Huawei. But there was a critical loophole. TSMC wasn't a US company. It's Taiwanese. So it could still legally manufacture HiSilicon's designs. For Washington, this was a loophole that just had to be closed. And to close it, the US pulled out this devastatingly precise legal tool, the Foreign Direct Product Rule, or FDPR. I mean, this thing is a masterstroke of legal engineering. It basically weaponizes the fact that the tech supply chain is completely globalized. So here's how it works. It's actually pretty clever. You cannot design a modern chip without using American software, and you absolutely cannot manufacture it without using American equipment. The FDPR says that because these US tools are essential, the final chip, even one made in Taiwan by a Taiwanese company, is considered a direct product of US technology. And just like that, TSMC now legally required a US license to sell anything to Huawei. That beautiful symbiotic loop, broken. Knowing that the window was slamming shut, Huawei placed one last, massive, frantic order with TSMC for its next-gen 5nm chip, the Kirin 9000. It was a technological marvel, really, a final testament to what HiSilicon could do. But it was a finite supply. After September 15, 2020, the tap was turned off, for good. Which brings us right back to the ghost. After being completely severed from the world's best manufacturing, how on earth did that new Kirin 9000S chip show up in a phone in 2023? Well, the answer lies with SMIC, China's largest semiconductor foundry. Under immense pressure, SMIC pulled off a breakthrough that honestly surprised a lot of people. It successfully developed a 7nm class manufacturing process. That was a huge leap forward for them. But, and this is a huge but, context is everything here. See, SMIC is banned from buying the latest and greatest EUV machines, which use this super precise light to print chips. So instead, they had to pull this off using older, less precise DUV technology. It's kind of like trying to draw a microscopic circuit with a much thicker crayon. The result? A catastrophic manufacturing yield. We're talking maybe only 1 out of every 5 chips they make is actually usable. So while it's an amazing technological achievement, from a commercial standpoint, it's a disaster. It's just way too expensive to mass produce. And the consequences of being cut off from TSMC were swift, and they were brutal. After hitting #1 in the world, Huawei's smartphone business just imploded. It fell completely out of the top 5. And to save at least part of the business, they were forced to sell off their really popular Honor sub-brand. So the fallen prince isn't dead, not at all. It's just transformed. HiSilicon pulled off a major strategic pivot. It's no longer designing those flagship mobile chips for the global stage. Instead, it's building a new kingdom, a fortress really, by serving China's massive, protected domestic market in areas like electric vehicles, AI data centers, and IoT devices. All sectors that are less dependent on those absolute bleeding-edge chips it just can't get anymore. When you zoom out, the story of HiSilicon is about so much more than just one company. Its fate is proof that even incredible technological skill is totally vulnerable to geopolitics. What we're witnessing is the forceful creation of 2 parallel and pretty much incompatible tech worlds, one led by the US and one led by China. And that leaves us with a really critical question. The global interconnected system that gave us this unprecedented era of innovation, well, it's fracturing right before our eyes. The story of HiSilicon isn't just about a fallen prince. It's about a fundamental change to the entire kingdom. And the question we're all left with is, in a world that's splitting in two, what happens to the future of innovation itself?